Hello there. It's that time of year again, isn't it? And it's final tag time, and I'm actually going to try and attempt to do this in January, which is almost unheard of for me. But a few minutes spare, and this will take a few minutes, so I'll try not to be quick this year. Questions set by David Atkinson. Well done, David. Some good questions here. Some ones that I won't properly answer, but let's get to that when we get to that. Okay. So first of all, list of questions here. Best purchase of 2025, and I think this perhaps might be my best purchase of the year, which is Daniel Lanois and his album, which is called Belladonna. So this is an album. So Daniel Lanois is a producer. He's worked with lots of famous people like U2 and I've got a list here. Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Peter Gabriel. He's collaborated with Brian Eno. But he's also a good guitarist and a musician in his own right. And this is his album, Belladonna, which was out of print, and I kind of wanted a copy of it. It's a very beautiful record. It seemed to be going on Discogs and places like that for lots of money, but I think he repressed some copies this last year for his tour, and lo and behold, on his website he was selling some extra copies that I guess were left over after the tour, so I was very happy to pick up this one. Yeah, Daniel Lanois and Belladonna. Okay, moving right along. Share your favourite live musical experience of 2025. I went to quite a lot of gigs in 2025, I think over 20. Highlights of these were Vega Trails, at the ICA, Mogwai at Brixton Academy, that was great, with Andy, Hayden Pedigo at King's Place, that was a very beautiful one, Orchestra Baobab, which was at the Barbican, and of course Michael Muller, who played a small gig at Stone Nest here in London. What else? Your vinyl record collection in 10 years' time, is it bigger, smaller, or about the same? Explain why. I think it'll be slightly bigger, but not much. I don't want to get more records than I can play regularly. I'm not a collector per se. I'm a person that plays music on record. So I don't want the record collection as such to get so big that I'm not playing things regularly. So, question 4. You move into a new home, you play one record, turned up to 11 to announce your arrival. What is it and why? Well, if I've just moved into a new home, I'm exhausted. Moving home is really bloody stressful. I'll be exhausted, and the last thing I want to do is piss off my new neighbours by turning anything up to 11. So I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is pouring myself a nice glass of something relaxing, and I'll put something very gentle and calm and meditative on, and it might well be something like this, which is Floating Points with Pharaoh Sanders and the London Symphony Orchestra, and their album Promises, which is from 2021. Okay, put that down there. Okay, number 5. Show 2 albums, one from your favourite male and female artist. Why these 2? Well, first could well be Nina Simone. I love her voice, I love her attitude, I love that she achieved so much as a black female artist in the times that she was recording. This is from the 1960s, 1965, I think. And yeah, she's just an incredible artist and a bit of a one of a kind. So, and this is one of my favourite albums of her, which is Pastel Blues. And in terms of a male singer, I'm going to choose Richard Hawley. This is his album from 2001 called Late Night Final, and one of my favourite albums of his. He's just got such a fantastic voice. He's great live. He played in London this year, and he's very underrated, and as I say, he's got a fantastic voice, so I'll pick Richard Hawley. Okay, moving along. We like to have fun here, show your top 3 dance and soul records. So first one I picked, I played this on New Year's Eve actually, Grace Jones, Night Clubbing. It's her album from 1981, I think possibly my favourite Grace Jones album. Walking in the Rain, Pull Up to the Bumper. It's all fabulous, really, and that would be first one of those. Second one is never quite sure which way up this record goes, but I think it's that way, isn't it? Is Prince and Parade, which is from 1986, and this is one of my favourite, perhaps my favourite Prince album. Really, it just struck a real chord when I was at college. Got played a lot. Reminds me of certain people I was at college with, and it's a great record to get you up and dancing around. And finally, a much more recent album, which is Black Acid Soul by Lady Blackbird. I saw her play earlier this year at the London Palladium, and she was fantastic. And this is from 2021. There's an amazing version of a Bill Evans song on here. What's it called? Fix It, which is just absolutely beautiful. Is it soul? Is it jazz? I'm not sure. I don't care. It's a beautiful record. Beautiful, soulful record, should I say. To do a real stinker, nominate a track you hate from an album you love. Why the hate? It'd be quite easy perhaps to go for a Beatles album. There always seemed to be a slightly dodgy one, usually sung by Ringo on a lot of Beatles albums, but I have gone for Belle and Sebastian's The Boy with the Arab Strap album. I absolutely love, but the first song on side 2 is called A Space Boy Dream, which I don't hate it, I quite like it, but it just feels out of place on this album. If I was playing it on my phone, I might skip that track. It's effectively a kind of instrumental with a voice talking about remembering a dream over the top of it, and in itself I don't hate it, but within the context of this album, I could happily lose that one. Okay. Second page. If you had to pick only one album from each of the last 6 decades, what would they be? 1960s, there are so many great albums by people like the Beatles and the Stones and all kinds of people, but in terms of records that I actually play regularly, more regularly, the albums from the 60s I regularly play are actually jazz albums, and I've picked this one, which is from 1960, is it 62 or 65? Anyway, Bill Evans and Moonbeams, which is a beautiful jazz record, and what more to say about that? It's a great record. Okay. From the 1970s, a record that I regularly play is John Martin's 1973 record, which is Solid Air. Again, this was the record where he began to kind of bring more jazz elements into his music. It was moving slightly away from folk, his voice, he's beginning to use it in a slightly more kind of abstracted way, almost like an instrument, and I think it all comes together in this record. It's one of my favourites of his, and yeah, I love this record. From the 1980s, I would go the Cocteau Twins and Treasure. This was about the period I was studying at St Martin's School of Art, and I first discovered Vaughan Oliver's design work, discovered the Cocteau Twins and the kind of strangeness of their music, the kind of uniqueness of their music, and yeah, it's one that's really kind of stood with me from the 80s, and one of my favourites. From the 90s, I chose REM's Automatic for the People. I was at postgraduate college by then, and this record just seemed to be massive. It got played a lot. Actually, by then we'd started our own company, so it got played a lot in the office. So it felt a bit like, our office felt like an extension of college in those days. It was fairly loose, shall we say, as companies go. And this record got played a great deal. And it's full of great records, like Drive and Everybody Hurts, and particularly Night Swimming. Yeah, it's all great. Anyway. From the 2000s, I couldn't decide between Radiohead's Amnesiac and Radiohead's Kid A, and they kind of go hand in hand. So I think it was a kind of golden time for them when they moved on from their predominantly guitar-based music and just took another step forward, and I'm very fond of those two. I also chose two from the 2000s. So one of my favourites that I play a great deal is Morning Phase by Beck, which is just a beautiful album, start to finish. Really, it's I can never really remember the name of any of the tracks here, because it just feels like one complete work, this album, and it's the perfect record for me. And the other one, which is really memorable for that year, would be David Bowie's Black Star, which is his kind of parting farewell to the world, and just felt like a momentous moment, really, of him saying goodbye, with a beautiful sleeve designed by my good pal Jonathan Barnbrook. So that's that. Go back to the questions. You get the opportunity to spend a day alone with one artist, walking a mountain trail, a beach, hanging out in the city. Well, I'd be hanging out in the city with Elvis Costello, if I could. A few things I read about him. He's quite curious about people, and he's very keen to meet other stars. In fact, when my wife worked at Island Records, she was looking after Tom Waits in a hotel in Notting Hill Gate in London, organising interviews, and Elvis Costello just turned up one day out of the blue and just wanted to have a chat with Tom Waits, and that's the kind of person he seems to be. So if I spent some time with him, apart from asking him about his own career, I'd quite like to ask him about some of the other artists that he's met over the years, because he does seem to be quite a kind of the person who just would go, well, what's the worst could happen? I'll go round to the hotel and they'll say, no, he's too busy. But he kind of reaches out to others. So, that probably means he's got a lot of interesting stories. So question 11, show a record that contains a track that always brings a tear to the eye. Or are you a heartless bastard? I'm certainly not a heartless bastard. I cry pretty easily, to be honest with you. And one record that springs instantly to mind is Tom Waits' album Blue Valentine from 1978. it's his 6th studio album, I think, and there's a track on here called Kentucky Avenue, and this is told in the as a child speaking to another child, and he's talking about all the kind of things they can get up to. I'll take you up on the roof of the drugstore, and we'll go and run on Mrs. So-and-so's lawn, and because she'll stab you with a steak knife if you run on her lawn, and we'll let the tyres down of the school bus, and then as the song goes on and it gets later on, you realise he talks about cutting the wheels off of the person he's talking to's wheelchair, and taking off the braces off his legs, and I think it refers to a childhood friend he had who had polio, and it becomes a very sad. You suddenly realise it becomes a very sad story of one child just wanting to kind of free their friend from their physical kind of disability, and it's a very gets to me every time. So Tom Waits. Question 12. Show 3 albums from artists you've tried to love, but you question why you bother. I can't do this really. I don't buy records on the hope that I will just play them and get into them. I think I might have done this when I was a teenager. I bought Tangerine Dreams, Phaedra, because I fell in love with the cover, I think. And I played it, and it didn't land with me. But I don't have it anymore, because why would you keep a record that you don't love? So I think I probably swapped it for something else, or sold it, or took it to the charity shop. So yeah, I can't show anything like that. Show an album from an artist whose character disappoints you, or can you separate the artist from the art? I can, to some extent, separate the artist from the art, but Morrissey still disappoints me, because I think he's a bit of a dick. So there you go. If you had to sell all your vinyl along with your record player, show the one album you would keep as a keepsake. I would possibly keep this one, which is Talking Heads is Speaking in Tongues, and this is a special version of the record which was designed by the artist Rauschenberg, and when is it 1983? Yeah, Robert Rauschenberg, and these have kind of discs that rotate on the cover, and just the package is really interesting. It's a piece of art in its own right, so that's probably why I would keep it, just as a piece of art to perhaps put in a frame or something, if I'm not going to play the record anymore. Number 15, discuss your VC highlights of 2025. This would definitely be some meeting up with some vinyl community people, or people I've met via this strange thing we call the VC. Firstly, there was Andy Ford, who I met in February. We went record shopping in Brixton. We went for food together, and we went to see Mogwai play at the Brixton Academy, and spent afternoon and evening together, and it was great. He's really great company, is Andy. I could have chatted away for hours and hours. Such a sweet guy. If he lived locally, I dare say we'd meet up regularly and have pints in the pub and talk about records a lot more. So that was great. And then later in the summer, after the summer, I met with Michael Muller, who has a channel called Noted and Archived, and also Headley, who has a channel called Another Fat Bearded Man Talking About Records. And they were lovely company to be with, really, really good fun. I have so much in common with them. It seems we went to an Arvo Part recital in a beautiful old church in the City of London. We met again the next day, and went to the Tate, saw a fabulous exhibition by the Korean artist Oh Ho Soo, We had lunch together. I went record shopping with Headley. Headley is such good company. Taught me things about London, about my home city that I didn't know myself. Michael, I have so much in common with, it seems, musically, and we hang out together. And I went to see him play at a small gig in London, and took him for a walk along the river one day, and was such a joy to spend some time with those two guys too. So number 16, name your favourite musical biopic if you have one. I don't really like them. I remember seeing one called Nowhere Boy by Samantha Taylor Wood. When was that? 2009. It's the childhood story of John Lennon, and I remember kind of liking the movie, but then I came out of it with an unease, thinking, God, there are all so many conversations and scenarios in that movie which are not necessarily based on fact. They are imagined, and yet I think lots of people come out of those movies and think, oh, this is just how rude John Lennon was to that person, or this is just how unloved he was by that person, or you know what I mean? It's like there's so much invented dialogue and scenario there that I'm a bit uneasy about them. So I have to say I'm not really wild about musical biopics, even if they're kind of made really well. Give 3 reasons why jazz matters. So this is number 17. I'm getting there. Give 3 reasons why jazz matters and show a favourite album. For me, a lot of jazz is mostly instrumental, so I can... hold on. Sorry about that, the doorbell. So, back to this. Number 17. Give 3 reasons why jazz matters and show a favourite album. Why does jazz matter? Well, personally, because it's mostly instrumental, it can often sit well with me at certain times that other records would be more kind of interruptive. So I might be reading, or I might be just working kind of visually on something, and jazz, I wouldn't call it background music in that time, but it seems to kind of work with a different part of my brain, I suppose, in a way that classical music can as well. And I suppose that leads into number 2. So it scratches an itch that other genres don't seem to kind of quite do for me, in that it can often be quite abstract in nature, or the jazz I like can be quite abstract in nature, less kind of song-based and a bit more kind of meandering and sprawling, which I find kind of quite meditative and spiritual in a way. And I think as a third reason, I think it's quite a kind of foundational influence on a lot of other music. You find a lot of musicians in other genres collaborating with jazz drummers or jazz players, and it adds another element or influences them in other ways. So I think it's quite an important inspiration for a lot of other musicians outside of jazz. I suppose also because it just kind of evolves. I mean, if you asked to kind of show one album, so one of the earliest albums I would show would be this Cannonball Adderley album called Something Else, which is absolutely fabulous. But an album from this year by Chip Wickham, who is a British saxophone and clarinet player. This one is called The Eternal Now, which is very beautiful. And they happily sit side by side for me. It seems to be a much more fluid kind of evolution of music than you might get with other types of music. So I suppose that's a fourth reason, is that it continually evolves within a very similar kind of genre. God, sorry, album's falling over now. Right. back to the bit of paper. Number 18. Oh yes, you're an innocent man or woman on death row, and they give you one last musical request. What do you ask for? Well, we don't have the death penalty in this country. So what? But if for some reason I got put on death row for, you know, having an opinion or something in another country, then I would probably ask for Max Richter's Sleep, and hopefully the full version of this is 8.5 hours, and hopefully I would pass away in my sleep through some kind of injection or something that didn't wake me up. Okay, but that's probably about the best I could go for there. And what's the final one? Oh no, it's not the final one. Number 19, sell your favourite artist to a new listener. I'd be terrible at selling anything to anybody, to be honest with you. But for this, I will choose one artist, and I will say Nick Drake is one of my favourite artists. He only made 3 albums, really. There were some things left over, but these are his main 3 albums before he sadly died. And I would just say, I'm not going to sell it to you. Just listen to these 3 records. It's not going to take you a very long time. And if you don't like him at the end of that, then quite frankly, there's no hope for you. So that's about as far of a sell as I'll go to. Finally, you're arranging a VC meetup in 2026, excluding those you've already met. Invite 3 people you'd most like to meet. I mean, there are lots and lots of really interesting people around the globe. 3 that came instantly to mind. There's a guy called Jim who used to have a channel called Vinyl Designer, and I say used to. His videos are still there, but he's not made one for a few years now. But I think he might be a graphic designer or a designer of some kind, and I really like the way he talks about music. I think he's very eloquent about music, and I like the way it doesn't feel like he's trying to sell me a second-hand car. So I feel that there might be a kindred spirit there, so I would like to meet Jim. And there's another channel where a chap called Mark and another chap called John get together, and their channel is called Dr. Rhythm, I think it is. And they seem to be terribly knowledgeable about music, and they speak very eloquently about it. They get together, I think, once a month or something, and they both play each other tracks off different albums, and then they talk about it afterwards. And I think it'd be quite fun to spend some time with them. So yeah, that's it. So that's the last question. Phew, you might say. Very good to see you. Thanks for, if you've made it this far, thanks for sticking with me. And hopefully again, I'll see you soon. And I'll say goodbye for now. Okay, bye-bye.